Stop scrolling. No, seriously. Stop. Look at the screen. Because what you're about to hear, you can't unhear. These aren't stories. These are things that happen to real bodies. Bodies with nerve endings. Bodies that belong to people who woke up that morning thinking they'd see another sunset. They didn't. And the way they died? It's worse than you think. It's worse than I can describe. But I'm going to try. Number 20. The breaking wheel. The first hit doesn't kill you. That's the point. They strap you down. Arms, legs, splayed across a wooden wheel the size of a cart. The executioner isn't some hooded ghoul. He's a guy named Peter or Hans who drinks at the same tavern as your brother. He picks up an iron bar, not a sword, a bar, blunt, heavy. Cold, he swings it down on your shin. The bone doesn't break. It explodes. Splinters tear through muscle, through skin. The sound, wet wood snapping mixed with a scream that doesn't sound human. It echoes off the buildings. The crowd flinches. Children watch. Their parents lifted them up so they could see better. They do the other leg, then the arms. Methodical. Each limb takes a hit. Sometimes two. The executioner knows anatomy. He knows how to break without killing. The body on the wheel stops looking human, limbs bent wrong, joints reversed, a marionette with its strings cut and then stomped on. And you're still alive, still breathing, still feeling everything. Your brain is screaming, but your body can't move, can't crawl, can't do anything but lie there, a sack of shattered bones wrapped in skin. Then they hoist the wheel up on a tall pole. You hang there, above the crowd. The sun burns your face. Birds come. They start with the soft parts, the eyes, the lips, the places where the skin is thin and the blood is close to the surface. You can't wave them away. You can't close your eyes. Some victims lasted 3 days. 3 days hanging on a wheel, watching crows eat their own fingers. A chronicler in 1581 wrote that the town whispered for weeks afterward. Not about the crime, about the screaming, the way it changed pitch as the hours passed. From human to animal to something there isn't a word for, and parents told their children, remember the wheel, remember what happens. But the wheel was mercy compared to what comes next. Number 19, the Forest of Stakes, Vlad III, the Impaler. You've heard the name, you've seen the vampire movies. This isn't fiction 1462, Targovist. The Ottoman army, the most feared fighting force in the world, marches into Wallachia expecting a battle. Instead they find a forest, 20,000 stakes, 20,000 bodies, men, women, some say children, every single one impaled. The Sultan, Mehmed II, conqueror of Constantinople, this man who had seen cities burn and populations slaughtered. He stopped his horse, he stared, he turned his army around and went home. Here's how impalement works. The stake is sharpened, not to a needle point. That would kill too fast. It's rounded, blunt, thick as a man's arm. They grease it with animal fat. The condemned is stripped, held down by soldiers. The stake is positioned. It enters through the anus or the vagina. The executioners use mallets. They pound the stake upward. It tears through the lower intestine, through the stomach. They angle it to avoid the heart and lungs. An art form, a skill learned over years. The stake travels up through the chest cavity and emerges somewhere from the upper body. The shoulder, the neck, the mouth, and you're alive through all of this. For hours, sometimes days, Vlad didn't just impale his enemies. He arranged them by rank. The Ottoman officers got the highest stakes, their bodies positioned so the Sultan would recognize them, would see their faces contorted, would smell their decaying flesh mingling with the Wallachian air. One account describes a forest so dense you couldn't walk between the stakes without brushing against human skin. Skin that was still warm, still twitching, flies so thick they darkened the sky. People refused to farm near the site for generations. They said the soil was cursed. They said you could hear moaning on quiet nights. The roots of the new trees grew through rib cages. Vlad ate dinner overlooking this forest. What does that do to a man's soul? Or maybe the question is, what was already missing from his soul that allowed him to do it? The forest of bodies broke an empire's strongest army. Number 18, flayed for display. In medieval England there was a corrupt judge, William Dios, real man, real crimes. When they finally caught him and executed him, the king, a king who had a creative mind for punishment, ordered Dios's skin removed and nailed to the courthouse door every day, every single day. New judges would walk past that door. They'd see the leathery human parchment stretched across the wood. They'd see the places where the executioner's knife had been careful, surgical. The skin preserves. It darkens. It shrinks slightly, but it remains recognizable. Imagine touching it. The texture. Slightly oily, grainy. Human leather stretched tight over oak. The smell, like old meat and salt, lingering in the hallway. In Persia, they took it further. A traitor governor's skin would be stuffed with straw, sewn up into a grotesque effigy, hung from the city gates. The wind would make it sway. The straw would rustle inside what used to be a man. The flaying itself, the execution, starts at the legs or the back. The executioner uses a thin, curved blade. He makes an incision, separates skin from muscle. It's like peeling a fruit. The flesh underneath is wet, glistening, purple and red and white where the fat layer sits. Blood wells up. The victim screams. They always scream. Some executioners in London became famous for it. They'd done it so many times their hands never shook. They kept pieces as souvenirs. Flaps of skin tanned and preserved, passed down to their sons. The door where justice wears its enemies. Number 17, boiled alive, 1531, Smithfield, London. A man named Richard Roos is led to a giant iron cauldron. Henry VIII himself made boiling the punishment for poisoners, not hanging, not beheading. Boiling, they fill the cauldron with water, sometimes oil, sometimes, God help you, molten lead. Roos watches the liquid heat, watches the bubbles start, steam rising, the noise of a rolling boil filling the square. They put him in. The water doesn't kill instantly. Your skin scalds first, turns bright red, then white, then blisters rise and burst in the same motion. The heat penetrates deeper. Your fat begins to render, floating to the surface in yellow globules. Your muscles cook. Your organs shut down one by one. But your brain is still alive, still registering every single nerve ending screaming simultaneously. Witnesses said the smell traveled 2 city blocks. Not just cooking meat, cooking human meat. There's a difference. People who smelled it said they couldn't eat pork for years afterward. The association was too strong. In France, they stirred the pot. The executioner had a long pole, and he'd push the body down, make sure it cooked evenly. Some accounts say the crowd cheered when the body stopped moving. Other accounts say everyone went silent, that the reality of what they were watching hit them all at once. Number 16. The sack of animals. This one comes from ancient Rome, but medieval Europe resurrected it with enthusiasm. The poena cullae, penalty of the sack. They sew you into a leather sack. A live dog is thrown in with you. Sometimes a snake, a rooster, a monkey if the judge was feeling creative. The animals are terrified. They're in darkness, crushed against a human body. They do what terrified animals do. They attack. The dog bites. Tears at your face, your hands. The snake strikes blindly. The rooster claws. Your blood fills the sack. You're screaming, but no one can hear you because the leather muffles everything. And then, water. They throw the sack into a river. Now the drowning starts. 3 minutes. 4. The animals are drowning too. The dog is biting you even as it dies. The snake is thrashing. You're all tangled together in a sack full of blood and river water and excrement and death. In Poland, one execution went wrong. The sack burst open mid-river. A man and a furious dog spilled out, both still alive. They were recaptured, resumed, thrown back in. The townspeople refused to eat fish from that river for months. Said the fish fed on what leaked from the sack. Said the fish tasted of human. Said the water was cursed. Number 15. Scaphism. The boats. This is the one that haunts me. The one I can't shake. Ancient Persian in origin. Adopted with loving detail by medieval torturers who wanted something slow. Something that stretched death into a marathon. 2 boats. Or hollowed logs. The condemned is placed inside, sandwiched between them. Only the head, hands, and feet protrude. They're force-fed milk and honey. Buckets of it. Forced down their throat until they vomit, until diarrhea floods the boat. The milk and honey mixture attracts every insect for miles. Then they smear honey on the exposed skin, the face, the hands, the genitals. The feet the flies come, they lay eggs. The maggots hatch, thousands of them. They burrow into the skin, into the eyes, into the urethra, into the anus. The victim feels every single one. The crawling, the chewing, the tiny mouths eating them alive from the inside and the outside simultaneously. And they last. Days, sometimes over a week. One Greek historian describes a man lasting 17 days. The executioners couldn't go near the boats because the stench was so bad. The ground around the boats became permanently cursed. Nothing but thistles and flies would live there for years. Think about the psychology required to invent this. Someone sat down and thought, what is the slowest, most humiliating, most agonizing death I can design? And Scaphism is what they came up with. A death by insects. A death by your own filth. A death that takes so long you forget what hope feels like. Number 14. Sword alive, upside down. That's crucial. They hang you by your ankles. Blood rushes to your head, keeps you conscious, keeps your brain oxygenated. The executioner wants you awake for this. 2 men on the saw. A 2-man cross-cut blade, sometimes still wet from the last job. They position it at the groin. The saw starts moving, back and forth, teeth biting into skin, into muscle, into the pelvic bone. The screaming is indescribable. The victim watches the saw descend into their own body, watches their abdomen split open, intestines spilling. The blade reaches the diaphragm, still alive, reaches the sternum, the heart still beating, visible now, the lungs still breathing, exposed to open air. In Prague, they said the saw could cut truth from lies. They used it on perjurers. Children were forced to watch. A lesson. This is what happens when you lie to the court. One Moroccan account says a sultan ordered a man sawed in half lengthwise while the city's children were lined up in rows, forced to watch. Some fainted, some vomited. Some went home and never spoke again. The ones who looked away were beaten. Number 13. The Blood Eagle, the Vikings. We romanticize them. Horned helmets and dragon ships. This is what they really did to their worst enemies. You're placed face down, your back exposed to the cold northern air. The executioner draws a blade down either side of your spine. Deep cuts, through skin, through muscle, until he hits rib. Then he takes something heavy, a hammer, an axe head, and he breaks each rib where it connects to the spine. The ribs swing outward. Like opening a set of wooden shutters, your lungs are exposed, pink, wet, still inflating, still deflating, still trying to breathe even though your chest cavity is open to the sky. The executioner reaches in. He pulls the lungs through the gaps, drapes them over the splayed ribs. They flutter, like wings, the blood eagle. You don't die instantly. Your heart is still beating. Your brain is still alive. You suffocate slowly, with your own lungs outside your body. The sagas say the bravest warriors died in silence. They couldn't have. It's not physically possible. But the myth persists because we need to believe that honor can overcome even this. Break your oath and your back will open like wings. Number 12. The red-hot Iron Crown, Hungary, 1514. Georgi Doza, a peasant who dared lead a revolt. When the nobles captured him, they didn't just execute him. They made him king an iron throne, iron crown, iron scepter, all heated in a forge until they glowed. Orange, then white. They forced Doza onto the throne. The iron burned through his clothes instantly, then his skin, then his flesh, his body welded to the chair. The smell of searing meat filled the square, the sound of his own fat sizzling. They placed the crown on his head, his hair ignited, his scalp fused to the metal. His brain began to boil inside his skull, his eyes burst, and still stills his chest heaved. Still alive, still feeling it. Then they brought out his followers, starving men, told them they could live if they ate, tore strips of burning flesh from Doza's body, made them chew, made them swallow. Some refused. They were executed on the spot. Others, God help them, obeyed. The human mind breaks under enough pressure, and these men ate their leader while he was still alive, while he could still feel their teeth. The Iron Crown became legend, a warning to every peasant who dreamed of rising up. Leadership means pain. Rebellion means becoming meat. Number 11. Immurement. Walled alive, this one is quieter, slower, and somehow worse for it. They find a wall, a thick one. Cathedral walls, castle walls. They hollow out a niche, just big enough for a human body to stand. You're placed inside, sometimes facing outward so they can watch your face as they work. Sometimes facing inward so the last thing you see is rough stone. The mason starts laying bricks, bottom first, then higher. The light shrinks. A rectangle, a slit, a pinhole. Gone darkness, complete. You can't see your hand in front of your face. You can't sit. There's no room. You can barely turn your head. The air grows stale. Then foul. You saw yourself, no choice, and the smell fills the tiny space. Days pass. Your thirst becomes something animal. Your tongue swells. Your lips crack and bleed. Your mind starts to go. You hallucinate. You talk to people who aren't there. You scratch at the stones until your fingernails come off. Then you scratch with bone. and people in nearby rooms swear they heard singing. Soft, repetitive, coming from inside the walls. Singing that went on for nights, then stopped. Workers renovating old buildings still find these bodies, crumpled at the bottom of the niche, hands worn to bone, mouths open, frozen mid-scream for centuries. Number 10. The oubliette, French, from the verb oublier, to forget, a hole in the floor, a shaft going down into blackness. They drop you in. The stone lid slides shut above you. No ladder, no stairs, no light. Just a circular pit maybe 6 feet across. You can't stand upright, you can't stretch out. You're in a permanent crouch, no food bowl, no water, no human contact. The jailers literally forget you're there. You exist in darkness so complete you forget what light looks like. Rats find you. They're hungry. They gnaw at your toes while you sleep. Your wounds fester. Infection spreads. Your body slowly rots while you're still alive. You go mad, not metaphorically. Actually, clinically insane from sensory deprivation and pain and hunger, and the absolute certainty that no one is coming. When they find your bones years later, they're mixed with rat bones. The line between you and the vermin blurred by time and darkness, and the complete absence of dignity. They fell through that hole and the world forgot their name. Number 9. Hanging in iron cages. Some punishments don't end with death. They're designed to keep scaring people long after the condemned is gone. Iron cage, shaped like a human body. You're locked inside while still alive. The cage is hoisted up on a tall pole at a crossroad, a gibbet. Everyone sees you. Travelers, merchants, children walking to school, you hang there, exposed. No shelter from sun or rain or snow. In summer, the metal heats up until it burns your skin on contact. In winter, you freeze. Your fingers turn black. Your toes snap off. People gather to watch. They throw things. Stones, rotten food, sometimes burning coals if the crowd is feeling cruel. Birds land on the bars. They peck at your eyes through the gaps. You can't protect yourself. Your hands are trapped. When you die, it takes days, sometimes a week or more. They leave you there. Your body rots inside the cage. Flesh liquefying, dripping. The bones eventually fall apart and scatter on the ground below. Then they put someone else in the same cage. Some gibbet poles became permanent landmarks. Turn left at the cage where the highwayman swung. Children were baptized under them. Markets set up nearby. Death as civic architecture. Number 8. Pressed to death. Peine forte et dure. This one wasn't torture. This was law. If you refused to enter a plea in court, guilty or not guilty, the court couldn't proceed. So they had a solution. They strip you, lay you on your back on the stone floor, place a board over your chest, and start piling on stones. First one, then another. You can still breathe, barely. They ask you to plead. You refuse because if you plead guilty, your family loses everything. Your land, your goods. If you stay silent, they keep it. So you stay silent, more stones. Your ribs start to bend. The pressure is immense. You feel your organs shifting inside you. Your diaphragm fighting against the weight. Each breath is a battle. A tiny, agonizing sip of air. Giles Currie. Salem witch trials, 1692. They pressed him for 3 days. 3 days under the stones. The sheriff would come and ask his plea. Currie would whisper something. The legend says he said, "More weight." A final act of defiance. His tongue, forced from his mouth by the pressure, was pushed back in with the sheriff's cane. He died with his silence intact. His family kept their land. The stones kept his secret. More weight. Number 7. Execution by elephant. You think medieval horror was just Europe. Across India, Southeast Asia, the Middle East. They had their own traditions, and some rulers got creative. A trained elephant. Enormous. Intelligent. Taught to kill on command. The condemned is placed in the center of a packed public square. Thousands of people watching. The elephant enters. The mahout gives a signal. Sometimes it's quick. The elephant raises one massive foot and brings it down on the skull. The head pops like a melon. Bone fragments and brain matter spray across the dirt. The crowd cheers. Simple. Efficient, but sometimes, if the ruler was bored, if the condemned had really angered him, it was slow. The elephant toys with you, pins your leg with its foot, grinds the bones to powder while you scream. Then the other leg, then your arm, then delicately, your chest. The elephant is trained to keep you alive, keep you feeling it. Your ribs snap one at a time, your organs compress, your body flattens, but your head remains untouched, perfectly preserved, recognizable. So everyone knows who was destroyed. Portuguese travelers wrote home about it. couldn't believe what they'd seen. Men reduced to rags of flesh while their faces remained intact. The elephant walking away calm, placid, a good animal that just did what it was told. Number 6. The iron grill. Roasted alive, Vlad the Impaler again. The man had a whole catalogue of horrors. The iron grill was one of his favourites, an iron grate, not a stake, not a wheel, a grill like you'd cook meat on. Prisoners laid out on it, coals underneath. Slow heat, the metal warms, then burns. The skin on their backs blisters and splits. Their fat renders, dripping into the coals and flaring up in tiny bursts of flame. The smell of cooking human fills the air, sweet, pork-like, nauseating, and Vlad sits at a table, eating, drinking, watching. The screams don't bother him. The smell doesn't ruin his appetite. He chews slowly, looks the dying men in the eyes. Dares his enemies to look away. What creates a man like that? What happens to a human soul that it can sit and eat while other humans cook? MC9, I don't have an answer, but I can't stop asking the question. Number 5. Starvation collars, iron collar. Spiked on the inside. Dozens of sharp points facing inward toward the neck. Locked around your throat. You can't sleep. When your head drops, the spikes puncture your windpipe. You can't swallow. The spikes dig into your throat. You can't lean back or turn your head. Every movement is pain. Every breath is a careful calculation. You're chained in the marketplace. Public, everyone watches. The sun burns you. The rain soaks you. The spikes create wounds. The wounds fester. Pus runs down your chest. Flies land, lay eggs. The maggots hatch in the open sores around the iron. You feel them, crawling, eating. You can't scratch. You can't move. You can't do anything but stand there and rot while the town goes about its business around you. In Prague, a man sentenced to this lasted 5 days. By the end, his face was so swollen from infection that no one recognized him. His own family walked past without knowing. The collar was eventually removed from his corpse and displayed on the city gate. Ready for the next unlucky bastard,